What's going on? My name is Dustin Smith, better known as Bones, and welcome to BonesyTV, where today we're doing a full review on the PGS XT1 glove, blocker, and pads. Now, before we dive into this whole review, we have to talk about who PGS is. Starting with the name, PGS stands for Pro Goalie Sticks, which is where they kind of got their start. Starting with their distaste for the quality in goalie sticks in the market today, PGS is a brand that set out to create a quality goalie stick that could take a beating. And with that same mindset, PGS is moving into the glove, blocker, and leg pad space, creating a set that is going to be high in quality and continue to be a little more on the innovative side. So as we continue through this review, you'll see a few specs here and there that really kind of embody that innovative goal that PGS is going for. And on the subject of quality, a big thing with PGS is the fact that everything is sourced and built in North America. So like I said, a big goal of PGS is to create a quality product that's gonna last and push the boundaries of the goalie market. But now we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into this review, starting with the blocker. Now, of course, a blocker is going to simply just be a blocker, but with PGS, I really think they achieved their goal of creating a good quality blocker. Starting with the face of the blocker, PGS uses a 110 high density foam, which is a reoccurring theme that you're going to see throughout the entire XT1 lineup. Basically, what that means is that this blocker is going to create some very hot rebounds.
Not bad pop off the blocker too.
And right away, my first impressions with this set, I can say that I was definitely happy with how well the pucks just jumped right off the blocker, which is really nice. But continuing with the board here, you're going to notice that the blocker itself is actually pretty thin. This ends up being a little more thin than your traditional blocker and really reduces the weight, which is something that you also notice right away when you grab this thing. The other thing I did like about the blocker right away when I saw it is the cord running through the face of the blocker. I think that just kind of gives it a cool look, a cool aesthetic, and it kind of serves a purpose, really keeping everything together nice and tight, and really helps emphasize that pop right off the face. But overall, I would say the blocker really does have a really good balance and really good feel, which is something that you like to see in a blocker. And moving on to the cuff of this thing, they do have a two-part opening, which really makes this thing open up nice and wide. I mean, you really get a full range of motion with this thing because it opens up so much, but also they have some foams in here that make it nice and comfortable up in that wrist area. So overall, in combination with the adjustable wrist strap that we see here, this is a very comfortable blocker to put on right away. Now moving into the sidewall, we do have a nice firm sidewall to work with. It's not exactly super rigid. As you can see, we can kind of move it around a bit, but overall I would say this is a really nice sidewall. We got a bit of a ridge here on the side towards the very bottom. Moving up into the finger portion here, this is a bit of a design that's meant to kind of lock that paddle into your hand, so you get a pretty solid grip on your stick with this thing too. But wrapping things up with the finger protection, you're going to get some really solid finger protection with this. I have had a puck kind of ride up the shaft and hit me up in the finger area, and I was confident in it. I felt very protected and I wasn't worried about my fingers getting hit at all. So when it comes to finger protection, I will say that PGS has done a pretty solid job in protecting those digits. But the overall look of this blocker is pretty solid. I mean, they have the weave leather all the way through this thing, and even for a demo set, I don't think you can go wrong with this blocker. But of course now, we got to move on to the glove. Now getting into the catch glove, this might be one of the more interesting pieces to this whole set. If you follow Matt from Goal Crease Guardian or Casimir Kaskasuo, you will see that they have both done their own reviews on this set. So if you want more info on the set, definitely go check out their reviews too. But I think everyone that has reviewed this set specifically has said that the glove is super interesting. And being that PGS is really trying to kind of innovate things here, I think the glove is where they really try to innovate the most. But diving into the glove, I think the first thing that I noticed when I put this thing on is that it's kind of tough to really get your hand in there at first. And I think a big part of that has to do with the wrist they have put on here. Similar to the range of motion that you would get in the blocker and how open that cuff is, this cuff is almost separated off of the back of the glove, and you get a lot of extra material right here in the palm. I would say the cuff in general has a nice wide opening, but they really emphasize this extra piece that pulls off the back of the glove to give you that extra range of motion.
Yeah, you get pretty good wrist mobility in the glove too. That separated cuff is pretty good at giving you that full range of motion, but it's also kind of padded there around that area too. So,
but in doing that, you almost have this pad that I would say kind of almost rides up into about like the bottom of your palm. And at first that was definitely something that I had to get used to, but I really didn't think it was a cool idea that you can really extend your hand out and get that full range of motion. Now again, at first glance, this might kind of look like that true glove or a CCM glove with the way that is presented, but something that Kaz had pointed out, the way that this cuff is designed, it almost presents a little further out and away from the wrist. And this just kind of helped present the glove a little more flat facing towards the shooter, which I was personally a fan of, and I know Kaz was such a big fan of too. Now we also noticed the double T here on the glove with the skate lace pocket, and personally I've been growing into the whole skate lace pocket thing for a while. I was more of the traditional style, but with my last glove I ended up getting the skate lace also with the double T, so it was kind of nice to see this coming back again with this PGS Demo
pretty
glove.
Big pocket. Like, this pocket does feel huge, and everything seems to just be finding itself right there into the pocket. Nice kind of angle off the glove. When the puck kind of hits the palm part, it really likes to find its way there into that skate lace pocket.
And on the subject of the pocket alone, I will say this thing really did seem like a vacuum, and I've heard other people say that this was almost like a puck magnet, and I would agree. Pucks that just kind of fit anywhere in the glove area just found its way right into the pocket, so that was actually a really nice thing to experience. But getting into the closure of this glove, I think this is kind of where you start to see some serious innovation. But before we crack open the back and really dive into all of that, I will say that the closure is nice. This has been passed along from one goalie to another because this is a demo set, but I can say this has been breaking in pretty nice. You know, you get some really great closure out of it, and at the same time you get some solid protection. I'm not sure what kind of palm we have in here as far as, you know, like a pro palm or practice palm or game ready or anything like that, but I do feel like you get some pretty solid protection and some great closure. Well, what angle is this closure, you might ask? Well, we kind of have to dive into the back of this glove to really explain the closure angle. So opening up the back of this glove, starting with this top flap, you do get a lot of really good finger protection here in the back, which is something you're seeing in just about every glove now, with some really good solid finger protection along the back of the hand. But opening this up, we can see we have a series of straps back here. And this top one is kind of self-explanatory. This one just runs over the top of the finger stalls, and you can tighten this up if you need to. Nothing too crazy there on that strap. This strap right here across the top of the hand is really where things start to get interesting. But before we dive into that, we also see this very thick and padded wrist strap right here over the top of the wrist. And then getting into the cuff, you can kind of see that foam that comes around off of that wrist, going a little deeper into the glove than you would probably see in other gloves. But now diving into this mystery strap. PGS is calling this the MAS, or the multiple adjustment system. And what this is supposed to do is allow you to pick between two different break angles in one glove. Now, I believe you're supposed to get more of a 590 feel with the strap running across the back of the hand, but we can also adjust this, move this strap over, and now it attaches lower down here, almost kind of reaching towards the wrist area. And now when we close things up, this is supposed to give you more of that fingers to palm closure, your thumbs up, kind of almost like that 580, whereas the one going right across the back gives you almost more of that fingers to thumb kind of closure, like a 590. But the real question is, does it work? Do you actually get two different break angles in one glove with one strap? Oh, I made that way too tight. And the answer is kinda. I think this was also noted by Matt in Goal Crease Guardian, where you do feel a difference, but it's not a huge dramatic difference. It's not like putting on that 590 and then picking up a 580 and really feeling that difference between the closures. where I have this now, it is in that 580 position, and I do feel more of that thumbs up closure. But I can also, it's like kind of middle of the road-ish. It's not so far away from that 590 that I can say it's for sure feels like that 580 closure. Whereas if I go back to that position that runs across the top of the hand instead of down towards that wrist, we do get a little more of that fingers to thumb, but it still kind of gives a little bit of that thumbs up feeling.
Yeah, I mean, the closure of the glove too is very different than what I'm used to. I mean, it almost feels like I'm giving this thumbs up in the closure of this.
So does the mass system work? Yeah, enough to say that it does work, but I don't think it's really enough to say that it is a game changer in the industry. I think it's a really great idea, and I think other people that have reviewed this glove had said something very similar. It is a great idea, and when you're still trying to figure out what kind of glove angle you want, what kind of break angle you want in your glove, this makes so much sense. Or yes, you do want to switch back and forth between that 580 and the 590, really try to figure out what fits best for you, but usually you end up finding that break angle that just kind of fits, and when you know, you know. I mean, when you put on that 580 and you make that first catch, you know right away that you love it or not. And same thing with the 590. And here in the PGS glove, I think the closure is great. I think the break angle feels good in both positions. And really, it's just kind of cool to be able to switch back and forth and then really land on something that you feel fits best for you, instead of just being set to one specific break angle and then you're just kind of stuck with it. But overall, I think the glove is actually pretty solid. I think that's something that you're going to hear from a lot of people that have tried this set out, a lot of things that you will hear in other reviews about this set. And all Bonesy is here to basically confirm PGS glove is a pretty solid glove. But of course, now that we got the glove out of the way, we get to move on to the PGS XT1 like that. Get this thing out of the way. Now, right away, I think we have to go ahead and point out the fact, I guess maybe reiterate the fact, that this is a demo set. There are a lot of things about this pad that don't really fit my needs personally, but that really doesn't mean that they wouldn't fit your own needs, which honestly I think makes goaltending so awesome. I mean, each individual goalie has their own individual needs for how they play, and the PGS XT1 set, not to say it's not the specific pad for me, but there are things on this pad that just aren't exactly how I would have them for my needs. But right away, looking at this pad, it is a very thin pad. Of course, we see this flat face with no knee rolls, and really the first time I saw these, I kind of thought they were roller hockey pads. And honestly, that's kind of the feedback I've gotten from a lot of other people that have seen me wearing these. But of course, with that pad being thinned out, you are going to get a very lightweight pad. And I can say this is definitely a very lightweight pad. But continuing on the presentation of the set, I have been told that I look big in this set.
Hey,
You look big.
yeah, you think so?
Down, I'm like, oh, this goalie's big.
Yeah, you can't teach size.
So I would definitely say that is a plus, is being able to present as a larger goalie than you are. And even in a darker colored set, I think it really says something to how a set just kind of presents itself to the shooter. Now in the set, we also see the pre-curved shape, which is supposed to give you better 5-hole coverage. But in my experiences, I really feel like you get a little bit of separation there at the 5-hole as far as the seal is concerned. But when you go down through the rest of the pad, you really do get a great seal along the ice. It's just kind of up into that 5-hole area with that pre-curved shape. You get a little bit of separation when you're moving around in your crease in your butterfly. But another thing to know about the face of this pad is it's a stiff boy. This is a stiff set, and I'm not going to say it's, you know, the stiffest pad on the market, but they do also have that 110 HD foam like we saw in the blocker. So this pad does have some very hot rebounds, which is something that we're really seeing across the board throughout the industry, is pads getting more and more stiff so that these pucks are launching right off of them.
Yeah, I'd say the rebounds are pretty solid on these two. They're not like crazy rebounds where they're just absolutely launching out of there, but there's a pretty good pop off the pad.
I think the big thing for me with this trend is the twist at the top of the pad and how rigid we're starting to see these pads. Whereas before with softer pads, we were getting a lot of twist and torsionally with the softer pad. And here in the PGS set with that HD foam, we don't see any of that twist there, which is nice. So you're getting a very consistent pad along the ice when you're dropping down and some very solid rebounds. But it is a little bit more on the stiff side for me personally, especially with the no inner or outer break. And that's just kind of one of those personal preferences for me. I would go with a break right there, and I think Matt over at Goalie Guardian said that he would prefer something similar, but again, that's just kind of a personal preference. Now, the one thing that I really did struggle with these pads is going to be down in the boot area. As you can see right away, we're looking at more of a steep boot with this pad, and I've been playing in that more 90-degree break at the boot for a very long time now, so wearing a pad like this is definitely kind of a new experience for me, and I think this really kind of made it hard for me to play the RVH when I wore this. I mean, we look down at the toe, and we do see that HD foam here at the toe tie, and some skate lace where I think traditionally these are going to have a bungee toe tie in them, and as they've been passed along, we have now ended up here with the skate lace, which is something that I personally prefer, so I was happy with the skate lace. But with how steep this boot angle is, I was really having a hard time finding the post in the RVH.
Yeah, kind of missing those RVH pushes. Oh no, boot is a lot steeper than what I'm used to. Well, that's just an adjustment we'll have to make. If I was a skate on post guy, this would be not so much of an issue, but not really my style.
So that was a bit of a frustrating issue for me. But again, someone who wears a steeper boot would probably fit right into this. But for me, it was a bit of an issue for me to play with. But the other thing about the boot is that this pad kind of sat a little bit higher up on my leg, something that I noticed in my LaFave L20.1.
Yeah, I feel like the pad kind of wants to like rise up on me a bit. Like it wants to sit here naturally, and it's pretty high up there. But
so as far as mobility in the ankle, I really felt like I had a lot of room to move around in the ankle area, which was nice. But again, with the angle of the boot and just how stiff the boot is, because honestly, when we get into the stiffness of the boot, this thing is not easy to flex on. So personally for me, this really just kind of was the only issue that I actually had with this pad, other than the fact that it might have been maybe a touch small on me. So the way it sat on my leg may be a little higher because of the size. Of course, again, this being a demo set, it is not custom sized for me specifically, which was a bit of an issue the very first time I stepped out on the ice with these, because the way I had these strapped, and we'll dive into the strapping here in a second, but I needed to really kind of loosen the straps up just because of the way the pads fit on my leg.
But the first time I tried them on, it was nice to adjust the strapping on the fly. Nice easy Velcros back here, so it's super easy to make quick adjustments.
Now getting into the landing area of this pad, again, we are seeing that 110 high density foam throughout the landing of this pad. And I really think this helps it with the sliding and the overall seal. And like I said, the seal along the ice is very solid. You get a little bit of separation up here at the 5-hole with that pre-curve shape, but with this nice high density foam right at the landing area and here on the flaps as well, you really do get some nice slide along with the weave material here. I've been a big believer in just the weave leather being a little bit better with the slide than just your traditional Gen Pro, and this has really done the trick with these pads. I really do feel like the slide is pretty good. But now getting into the knee block of this pad, this is another thing that PGS has really emphasized, is the 3 different foams that we see here in the knee stack. And the whole purpose with these 3 different foams is to really help mitigate those hip injuries that goalies really find themselves in a lot. But on this top layer, we do have like I don't know, I guess a bit of a softer foam, and you get into the actual block itself, which is your traditional block, and then getting into that landing area, you have that much harder surface that makes the sliding just that great. But looking at the strap that comes out of the knee block, we see it coming through the knee block, something that you would also see in a Brian's pad. And then of course you have the option to either place it here a little bit lower or right up here behind the knee. But the cool thing about the behind the knee is that you have this, I think it's called an alligator strap, where this just kind of grabs both sides of it and really locks that in. So this is absolutely not going anywhere. And I know in the past when I used to wear my strap here behind the knee a very, very, very long time ago. It was an issue for this Velcro to kind of wear out. So you would get to a point where the strap would just kind of be useless. Like it wouldn't be able to hold anymore. And this system right here, it is locked in. Like you can be very confident in the fact that this strap is not going anywhere. So I thought that was actually a pretty cool feature, even though it's not anything that I'm going to use because I have moved on to the strap placement going a bit lower and leaving this knee area completely open because now I wear a bit more of a bulky knee guard, and I feel like having this area here really kind of gives me that free range of motion. And we do see that here in the PGS pad, where this strap is actually removable, but also you can move it up and down this leather tab here. So if you want a little bit higher, you can move it up. If you want a little bit lower where it is now, you have those options. And then of course, like I said, you can just remove it altogether if you feel like. But continue with the strapping, which might be kind of tough to see. I mean, it's a lot of black on black in here right now, but we do have this Y strap that comes out of the bottom of the pad, and this kind of ties everything all together. As we open that up, we have this third and final strap that is very adjustable. I mean, they have this whole piece here to give you the option to place these straps however you want. And I thought that was very interesting, considering right away I had issues with how the pad was strapped. I felt like it was too tight to my leg and I wasn't really getting the full rotation that you can get out of this pad. And I very quickly adjusted these, like on the fly. And I was able to kind of play around with the strapping and find something that worked much, much better for me. So I do like that you have all of these options with the very minimum amount of straps. I mean, here we have 1, 2, and then now 3 straps. Now opening this up, we do get this inner calf wrap that is kind of pulled together by this third strap. And the cool thing about this strap specifically is that this whole thing is adjustable. I mean, we can adjust the length of the top part separate from the length of the bottom part. So again, you can really kind of customize how this strap really kind of locks in, along with the option of how you want to place it on the other side. But yeah, opening this up, you get this inner calf wrap here, and then we can really see just how wide open this pad is, while at the same time getting that secure feeling with this inner calf wrap. Now, the other thing about this entire leg channel is that it is built with a very high thread count nylon, so you get a very slidey material, and what this is going to do is really kind of help the rotation of the pad and how fast it rotates into the butterfly and out of the butterfly. And this is something that you're going to see throughout the entirety of the leg channel until you get into the knee area, where you get kind of more of that black Nash material, something that you would see like in the palm of the blocker that I also forgot to mention. But now moving on to the very bottom of this pad, like I said earlier, we have these toe ties here that have been put in place of the bungee toe ties that they originally had in there. And again, if you're familiar with PGS, you know that they also make their own bungee toe ties. But the other thing you'll notice about this pad specifically is that we do not have any boot strap down here. However, PGS does have the option for one, and I believe this pad originally had it, and it might even be in the box that this was shipped in, but here you do see a place for a boot strap, and then it would come around into this area here. But of course, we're also seeing the whole industry kind of move away from the boot strap, and we're even seeing pads just being built straight up without them as a stock option, and getting a bootstrap has become more of a custom option. But here we do see the option to have it removable with this PGS pad, but also continuing with the boot specifically, we do have this very flat surface here across the top of the boot. So this pad isn't going to exactly sink in over your skate. It's going to sit more on top, which again kind of gives you that feeling that the pad sits a little bit higher on the leg as opposed to sinking down in over your foot. But going back to the whole boot angle and the way this pad sits on your leg, it really is a very steep boot angle, and it is nice and flat. And again, it does end up sitting a little bit higher on your ski. But overall, this is a stiff, flat face pad with some hot rebounds, a very steep boot angle. You get some great slide out of this pad, and we have some very interesting strapping along the back with plenty of options to play with. And I would say overall, pretty stylish pad. You know, it looks pretty good when you're playing in it. And I will say I have gotten some compliments wearing this gear that it does look pretty good. But let me know in the comments below what you think about the PGS XT1 glove, blocker, and leg pad. Please don't forget to subscribe. And as always, we'll see you around.